What if the greatest secret of the Imperium isn't a weapon? Not a lost Primarch. Not even a forbidden relic of the dark age of technology. Think about that for a moment. In a galaxy where planets burn daily, where hive cities choke on ash, where faith is enforced at bolt, untouched even by the crushing weight of imperial dogma. Now, imagine the Emperor didn't destroy it. He hid it. And now, it has begun to transmit a signal. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. That is the truth, drilled into every guardsman, every space marine, every citizen who whispers prayers to a corpse bound to the Golden Throne. Worlds are sacrificed without hesitation. So what happens when proof emerges that humanity once had another path? It did not scream through the warp like a demonic incursion. Priority, coding, gin-locked authorization keys that had not been used since the era of the Great Crusade. Machine spirits flickered with confused bursts of Benheric prayer. Status, by direct decree of the Emperor, forgotten. Forgotten, not destroyed, not purged. Not purged. When rebellion rises, exterminators answers. But this was something else. A deliberate erasure, a command embedded in the highest authority imaginable. The Emperor himself, the one being whose will forged the Imperium, the master of terror, before the betrayal of Horus shattered the dream of unity. Why would such a being hide a world? The discovery did not reach the public archives. It did not pass through administratum channels. It went directo, imenosa, and silently, to the Inquisition. Inquisitor Lord Valerius Kane received the data slay aboard his cruiser Judgment of Dawn. He was not a man prone to superstition. He had witnessed daemon hosts torn apart by Grey Knights. He had ordered planetary purges without flinching. He believed in one truth: survival through control. But as he studied the Emperor's seal embedded in the transmission, something unsettled him. If the Emperor commanded it forgotten, Kane murmured, then it was never meant to be found. And yet, it was transmitting. That meant one of two things. Within hours, Kane's fleet prepared for warp translation, but he did not travel alone. Their very presence confirmed the severity of the threat. They do not mobilize for political anomalies. They mobilize for existence. The fleet entered the warp. The Imperium howled around them, faces pressing against Geller fields, whispers scraping at the minds of weaker crew. Yet through all the madness of unreality, the signal remained steady, clear, guiding. When they emerged back into real space, they found a dying star bleeding crimson light across the void. And orbiting it, a living world. Scans flooded the bridge with impossible data. Stable biosphere, clean atmospheric readings, agricultural zones functioning at optimal output, urban centers arranged with geometric precision. No hive overpopulation, no industrial pollution choking the skies. Kane felt something he had not experienced in decades. Doubt. Thunderhawks descended toward the largest continent, escorted by gunships as they broke through the upper atmosphere. The sight below silenced even veteran stormtroopers. Cities of white stone and luminous alloys stretched to the horizon, greenery intertwined with architecture. Rivers flowed clean. Transit systems glided soundlessly between districts. No Gothic excess. No Skulladan cathedrals. No shrines burning incense to a skeletal god. At the center of the capital stood a towering statue. The Emperor, but not enthroned. Not skeletal, not divide. He stood armored, alive, fierce, as he had during the Great Crusade. A leader of men, not an object of worship. The Thunderhawks landed in a grand plaza. Citizens approached calmly. They were healthy, strong, unmutated, their eyes clear. No fear, no fanaticism, and they did not kneel. Instead, they placed fists to their chests. For unity, they said in unison, not for the Emperor. Not for terror, unity. The word echoed in Kane's mind like a forbidden memory. A man stepped forward, bearing insignia matching the ancient seal detected in the signal. I am Regent Solas. Hey, Saeed Ebonley. You have arrived, as the Emperor predicted. Kane's voice was ice. Explain. Solus did not hesitate. In the final years before the heresy, the Emperor foresaw division. He foresaw superstition, consuming reason. He chose one world to preserve the original vision of humanity. We were ordered to remain hidden, to remain rational, to await contact. The heresy, the cataclysm sparked by Horus' betrayal that split the Imperium and bound the Emperor to the Golden Throne. 10,000 years of war followed that event. 10,000 years of religious fervor, built around a silent God. And here stood a civilization that had never adopted that faith. They revered the Emperor as a visionary ruler, not a deity. Grey Knights extended their psychic senses. No warp corruption, no demonic whispers, no taint. This world was clean, cleaner than Terra, cleaner than Ultramar, cleaner than anything the Imperium had known in millennia. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. Because if word of this spread, if billions learned that humanity could survive without fanatic worship, without oppression, without constant sacrifice, the Imperium itself could fracture before Kane could respond. Alarms erupted from orbit. A warp rupture tore open space like a festering wound. A warship emerged, black and gold, its hull adorned with the 8-pointed star of chaos. The Black Legion. They had followed the signal. Of course, they had. Chaos does not ignore purity. It seeks to corrupt it. Drop pods launched immediately, streaking toward the planet in trails of fire. Kane watched from his helm display as they pierced the atmosphere. Solus did not panic. Instead, defensive grids flared across the skyline. Hidden weapon platforms rose from beneath plazas. Civilians moved with trained coordination toward armories embedded within the city structure. This was not a naive paradise. It was a prepared one. As the first Chaos pods slammed into the outer districts and Traitor Astartes emerged in blackened armor, bolters roaring, the Grey Knights ignited their force weapons in response. Silver met black. Psychic energy clashed with demonic fury. And under the light of a dying star, a forgotten world faced its first war in 10,000 years. Kane stood amid the chaos, watching citizens fight with disciplined precision. Their weapons advanced beyond standard Imperial issue. He realized then the full horror of the situation. If this world survived and returned to the Imperium, it would expose a truth too dangerous to contain. If it fell to chaos, humanity would lose the last untouched fragment of the Emperor's original dream. Either outcome threatened everything, and as fire began to spread across the perfect skyline of Eternamix. One terrible question rose above the thunder of battle. Kane's breath slowed. Worse. Progress. The Imperium had forbidden the uncontrolled. Advancement of technology after the Dark Age of technology nearly annihilated humanity. Innovation was shackled. Knowledge was ritualized. To experiment was to risk damnation. Yet here stood a world that had never regressed, never feared its own potential, and it was winning. In orbit, the Black Legion warship suffered catastrophic shield failure under concentrated Imperial lance fire. But even as it began to withdraw toward the warp rift from which it had emerged, something far more disturbing occurred. The rift did not close. It widened. Lightning arced across the void as reality split further apart. From its depths came a pressure that made even Grey Knights falter for a heartbeat. A presence. Watching. Kane's Vox crackled with reports from his fleet. Inquisitor, the warp breach is stabilizing. This is not a standard incursion. On the surface, citizens looked upward as the sky darkened unnaturally. The dying star above flared crimson, casting the city in blood-colored light. Solus turned to Kane. This is why we were hidden. Explain. Now, the Emperor foresaw that chaos would not merely corrupt worlds. It would adapt. It would learn. He believed that one day it would attempt to erase not just humanity's strength, but its hope. Kane's jaw tightened. Hope is a liability. Hope, Solus replied calmly, is a weapon. Before Kane could respond, a thunderous impact shook the Capitol Plaza. A massive drop pod, larger than the others, crashed directly before the statue of the Emperor. Marble shattered. Dust and smoke engulfed the square. From within emerged a towering figure clad in Baroque Terminator armor, black and gold, trophies of slaughter hanging from his frame. His voice boomed across external speakers. "You should have remained forgotten." Behind him, more Terminators advanced in disciplined formation. Kane recognized the heraldry instantly, the elite of the Black Legion. This was no opportunistic raid. This was a targeted strike. The Chaos Champion removed his helm, revealing a scarred face twisted by centuries of hatred. "I am Verex," he declared, "once of the Luna Wolves, one's brother to greatness." The name Luna Wolves hung heavy. The original Legion before they became the Sons of Horus, before betrayal reshaped their destiny. "You hide here," Verex continued, glaring at the statue of the Emperor, pretending the dream survived. Verex's gaze shifted to Solus. "You rejected godhood." He smiled darkly. Behind Kane, the Grey Knights formed a defensive arc. "Benderax Terminators raised combivoltas." If this world survives,